Zhang Hua, 232–300, was a statesman, writer and bibliophile during the Western Jin Dynasty. Zhang Hua's father, Zhang Ping, served as the governor of a local administrative region, but died young. Zhang Hua was lonely and poor when he was a boy, supporting himself by helping others shepherd sheep. Zhang Hua is smart and versatile. He showed superhuman memory and thirst for knowledge when he was young. Zhang Hua likes to read, and he has read in detail books on prophecy, medicine, divination, astronomy, fortune teller, etc. that are difficult for ordinary people to understand. Zhang Hua pays attention to moral cultivation and is upright and benevolent. He was an outstanding all-around super academic of that era. There was no imperial examination system at that time. At the beginning, Zhang Hua, who was born in a common family, was not discovered by the court for a long time. Later, Ode to the Ren written by Zhang Hua was read by Ruanji, 210–263, a famous poet at the time, and he sighed, "This man is a talented person who assists the emperor in governing the country." From then on, Zhang Hua's reputation spread far and wide. Fu is a kind of rhythmic prose poem in ancient China that is between poetry and prose. The wren is a small, inconspicuous bird that cannot fly far and has no beautiful feathers. But it is these humble birds that are looked down upon by ferocious eagles, soaring geese in the clouds, and beautiful peacocks that can escape natural enemies and avoid capture by humans. Wrens do not have high requirements for the living environment. They play in deep grass and dense forests. A few grains are enough to fill their stomachs, and they do not need to live in a permanent place. Accept the destiny happily and follow the laws of nature. The words in Zhang Hua's Ode to the Wren are concise, smooth and gorgeous. Zhang Hua expresses his own attitudes and views on life encounters by describing the wren's ecology and comparing it with other birds. In February 266, Sima Yan established the Western Jin Dynasty, and Sima Yan became Emperor Wu of the Jin Dynasty. Zhang Hua was the emperor's personal attendant, responsible for assisting the emperor in handling court affairs. Emperor Wu of Jin once asked Zhang Hua about the palace system of the Han Dynasty and the situation of thousands of households in Jianzhong Palace. Zhang Hua responded fluently and drew pictures on the ground to help Emperor Wu of Jin and other ministers understand easily. The emperor and ministers all watched him intently and were surprised by Zhang Hua's knowledge. A few years later, Zhang Hua served as the head of the secretariat with important responsibilities. From 278 to 280, Zhang Hua used his unique vision, fought against all opinions, and risked his life to assist Emperor Wu of Jin in planning and formulating a plan to conquer Wu. The kingdom of Wu fell, and Zhang Hua became famous thereafter. With Zhang Hua's talent and Emperor Wu's favor, he had the prestige to be promoted to prime minister. However, some veterans who came from wealthy families hated Zhang Hua and often wanted to wait for an opportunity to transfer Zhang Hua to serve in other towns. It happened that Emperor Wu of the Jin Dynasty asked Zhang Hua, "Who can I entrust to you for national affairs in the future?" Zhang Hua replied, "Having both talent and virtue and being a close relative of your majesty, it is not as good as King Sima Yu of Qi." This was inconsistent with Emperor Wu's original intention. The reason is that after Sima Yu became Sima Shi's stepson, Sima Yu should have been the traditional legal heir to the power of the Sima family. Therefore, the elder brother usurped the younger brother's position, which will always be a lingering problem for Sima Yan. So, he transferred Zhang Hua to Yuzhou, far away from Luoyang. From then on, Zhang Hua was ignored by Emperor Wu of Jin Dynasty. During the lifetime of Emperor Wu of Jin Dynasty, Zhang Hua never returned to the central court. Yuzhou is an important military town, transportation and commercial center of the nomadic people on the grassland in the northern part of the Western Jin Dynasty. Zhang Hua exercised local military power on behalf of the emperor and also managed the affairs of Wuhuan and other ethnic minority tribes. Under Zhang Hua's management, the border areas were peaceful and tranquil, agriculture and animal husbandry had good harvests year after year, and the troops stationed in Yuzhou were strong. More than 20 countries and tribes that were far away from Yuzhou and had never surrendered to him in the past dynasties all surrendered and sent envoys to pay tribute. People of all ethnic groups were grateful for Zhang Hua's kindness. The news reached Luoyang, and the central government discussed that Zhang Hua should return to Beijing to serve as prime minister, but he encountered obstacles from political interest groups in the court. Emperor Hui of Jin came to the throne, and Zhang Hua returned to Luoyang to serve as the prince's martial arts teacher. At this time, various political interest groups competed for central control of the imperial court and fought against each other. Zhang Hua was also involuntarily involved in the whirlpool of court fighting. When Queen Jia Nanfeng seized control of the central government of the imperial court, she thought that Zhang Hua was from a commoner family, had no clique ties, was a decent and talented man, and was well received by the public. As a result, Zhang Hua was placed in a high position to assist in government affairs. At that time, Emperor Hui of the Jin Dynasty and his queen Jia Nanfeng were greedy for power and cruel, but the world was still stable. This was all due to Zhang Hua's governance. Zhang Hua was afraid that the power of Jia Nanfeng's relatives would inevitably lead to disaster for the Western Jin Dynasty. Therefore, Zhang Hua wrote proverbs for women's history to satirize Jia Nanfeng. The Proverbs of Women's History uses the exemplary deeds of virtuous women in the palaces of past dynasties to warn women in the emperor's harem that they must respect women's virtues and be content with their duties. Nushirjun was later illustrated by Gu Kaiji, 348–409, an outstanding painter of the Eastern Jin Dynasty, and became an illustrated scroll with a length of 348.2 centimeters and a height of 24.8 centimeters, with both pictures and text. It has been preciously collected by the royal palaces of all dynasties. Pictures of Proverbs for Women's History is now in the collection of the British Museum in London, England.